covering all 4 major sports in the District of Champions. It's the DC Crossover Podcast with your hosts, Mike Cerrone and Ben Simpson.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 100 of the DC Crossover. I am Ben Simpson. That is Mike Cerrone.
Look at that crowd.
The crowd is going wild. We also appreciate you listening to the show on the Contender. Go download the app Contender with a K. You can hear our show and other shows covering all sorts of DC and Chicago sports. The fans are still going buck wild. You can follow us on Twitter at the DC Crossover for the main show account and at Cerrone16 for Mike. And yes, 100 episodes. 100 episodes here of this version of the show. We've done
a Benji. That's
many
what they call it,
versions. A what?
A Benji. A Benjamin.
Oh, a Benji. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? 100. I wouldn't know because I've never seen a $100 bill.
Me either.
So, we've done so many different versions of this show over the years. The First Pick podcast and all this other stuff. But this particular version, the DC Crossover, which I think started technically back in like 2018 or something along those lines, like 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. We did the shift over to the DC Crossover for the latest iteration of our show, and we did a lot of episodes, and we had to take a little break, and then we came back early last year, and I mean, we've been going after it ever since. I mean, I feel like we've hit. We've done almost every week. Obviously, we take a week off here and there, just like we did last week. But for the most part, we've been putting out DC Crossover content for a long time now. So it's been a lot of fun, and we wanted to celebrate with you guys, the fans, and have a special edition of the show today, Mike. Right. We're going to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just like you mentioned, we're doing so many different iterations of the show, and obviously, as people have listened over the years. We were working with different companies and different things like that, doing different shows. And we always tried to stick to trying to talk about, sports in general. I mean, we had the First Pick, as you said, that basically dealt with all sports. And then we had so many people say, well, can you just focus it on DC sports? Because that's what we're most interested in. Because a lot of people out there don't follow it as, closely as we do for all around the world. So basically you're seeing this show evolve, and as you mentioned, we did 55 episodes or something like that before we had to take a little hiatus. Then we came back for like 2 or 3 episodes, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, and then we were like, well, we got nothing to talk about, so we had to take another break. But then, like you said, most recently we've done 45 or something episodes over the last 10 months, or I don't even know how long it's been, honestly. Might be longer than that, where we kind of transitioned the brand and kind of teamed up with the Contender. Once again, go follow the Contender on Twitter, TikTok, everything Contender with a K. And it's been a fun ride, and obviously we're still not done. We're not 85 years old and can't speak anymore, so we're going to be doing it for a while. But like you said, it's going to be a very fun show. Very fun show. We got another draft in place and everything like that. We were going to talk about possibly doing possibly doing a chicken sandwich eat off when it comes to not like fast. I mean, but we got that new place that's in the area now. Forgot what the name of it is because we talked about it like 3 weeks ago.
Hangry Joe's, and they've been like popping up everywhere too.
Right.
It's not just the weird thing is. But that one is, it must be some crazy money coming in, like from whoever owns the franchise or whatever, because they have a Fairfax location, Herndon location, they're putting a Centerville location, an Ashburn location. Like, they must have just come into this area and they're just trying to flood the market with hot chicken sandwiches,
right?
Which we're happy about, of course. And so is Craig Melvin. So, we
you got to boost him up though more, man. That was a little bit low. Craig Melvin was. There he is.
There we go. So we're gonna do that chicken sandwich thing. We just decided it might be too much to try to cram all this in for this episode. But you will get some taste tests and that sort of stuff, especially this summer when things really slow down.
Well, we're known for the drafts and stuff like that through everybody from the Contender and everything like that. So that's why we wanted to do it for the 100th episode. But real quick, a funny little tidbit. When you had that applause going in the beginning of the show, from all the live and studio fans, basically that reminded me of when I'm at work and I like make like a basketball shot or something like that, or
Sure.
if I throw the ball at a certain area or whatever, if I'm like whatever lesson I'm teaching, for some reason, some classes just sit there and they just clap for you the entire time.
Nice.
Like you're like Brett Favre or MJ
celebrity.
or something. And it's like they sit there and I'm just like, all right, you guys can stop clapping, because they clap for like 30 seconds. And I'm like, and then they get like they feed off each other and stuff. It's just, dude, that made me laugh because I just thought about it because it happened last week. When sometimes they're warming up or something like that, I'll have a basketball out and then, I'll say like, if I make this half court shot, you guys got to do, you got to stay after school or something like that. And they're all like, no. And then all of a sudden I make it and then they get all freaked out. And then the one kid who loves school starts clapping for me and stuff like that.
Of course.
It just kind of reminded me of that little tidbit.
Kids like, funny. There's something about when kids are at that age where they're like not too cool to like do that sort of stuff, where they all just start clapping and going wild, and then like you said, once a couple of them start going crazy, the rest of them start going crazy, and like it just becomes this frenzy, and it's just hilarious. There's nothing funnier than like just a bunch of kids clapping. Just you got a whole classroom just going buck wild for you making a 3-pointer. No, it's true. We do have the live studio audience here in both of our houses, so it's a little scary that they're here, but it is what it is. Yeah, we didn't do a show last week.
Is Craig Melvin the MC, by the way? Is Craig Melvin the MC for our show
Craig
today?
Melvin is for sure the MC of the festivities here today. We've got, last week was Super Bowl plus Valentine's Day, so Mike and I decided probably makes sense to spend those days with our ladies and not piss them off by spending the evening doing a podcast. And then the Super Bowl was the day before, so we weren't going to do something for that. So last week we took it off. We're back in action. We're not going to recap the past 2 weeks in DC sports because that's just not what we're doing on this episode. But I did want to briefly, one of the biggest news, because we did talk about Commanders 2 weeks ago when that happened. That was one of the bigger pieces of news. And then the other big piece of news here in DC sports,
the Washington Wizard.
On the Wizards side of things, we wanted to just briefly talk about the trade. We'll probably dive into this more next week, but I wanted us to at least touch on it before we get into the festivities of the episode. On the 10th now, I guess, so it was a couple weeks ago, the trades happened. So Montrezl Harrell traded from the Wizards in exchange for Vernon Carey Jr., Ish Smith, and a 2023 second-round pick. And then you had Kristaps Porzingis and a conditional 2022 second-round pick acquired by the Wizards from the Mavs for Davis Bertans and Spencer Dinwiddie. And then the last but not least, Aaron Holiday acquired by the Suns from the Wizards for some cash. And that's always embarrassing as a player when you get traded for not even another player, but for cash. But those were big moves for the Wizards, who we had been clamoring for them to do something at the deadline. Because this team's been so bad, where it's like, all right, well, we can't just stick around the same cast and characters here. And so they did. They did make some moves here, small moves. I mean, Harrell was an expiring contract, so they were able to get Vernon Carey Jr., who's more of like a G League guy, but you never know. He's got good height. He's still pretty young. And then Ish Smith, because right now the Wizards didn't have a point guard at this point, pretty much, besides Raul Neto. So you bring Ish Smith back for his like 5th time for the Wizards, but veteran presence. He'll be able to kind of man the position until they can bring in somebody else. And then KP, Kristaps Porzingis, really kind of a high-risk move, but also high reward. Obviously, when Kristaps is at his best, he's one of the most dominant forces in the NBA. A big man that can shoot the three, can defend. Obviously, we all saw him dominate in New York when he had his kind of breakout years, and then he kind of struggled a little bit for the Mavs, but hey, might as well take a flyer on him in exchange for Davis Bertans, who we definitely want out of here, and then Spencer Dinwiddie, who was disappointing as well. So some big moves, Mike, and it changes the landscape of DC sports a little bit because now Bradley Beal has something else to think about,
Yeah, and that's the thing is I just believe that Tommy Shepard is always trying to plan for the future instead of plan for just this season or whatever it may be. Now, yes, was it fun that we saw this team early on go out and be one of the top 10 ranked teams in the NBA? Yeah, sure. It was fun. And that's pretty much the gist of it. That's all it was fun. It wasn't an actual, it was basically a smokescreen of seeing what this team actually has. Because, yes, did we think that Bradley Beal was going to have a much better season than he is having now? Yeah. So I think Tommy Shepard thought that as well. But there was no way this team was going to go somehow to the playoffs and make a splash and all of a sudden beat the Nets in 7 games and all of a sudden play the Sixers or the Bulls or whoever it may be and somehow make a huge impact in the Eastern Conference. There was no way that was going to happen. Just looking at last year when we had Russell Westbrook, and that was a huge deal because the sole fact that Russ was putting up great numbers, but we still weren't going to the heights that we want to go to. And I think Tommy Shepard, every single year he's done something major, I would say, to kind of keep the fan base at bay. Like, hey, we're doing something. But at this point, we just have to wait and see what he can do over the next, I would say, off season and then next season as well. When it comes to trade deadlines and stuff like that. But this off season, whether it comes to maybe a trade, possibly highly doubtful, or whatever it may be, like a free agent signing, that's a big splash, but you just never really know what's going to happen right now with this team because, like you said, they were getting some expiring contracts out of the way. Some people got traded for cash, which is hilarious. But literally, it's just something that I'm excited for because, again, we didn't have this for like 37 years with Ernie Grunfeld at the helm, where every single season we are trading draft picks for, veteran players that are B-list veteran players, or even C-list veteran players. We didn't really make that big splash to have a team that could compete, deep into the season, except for obviously when we had the first pick overall with John Wall and then Bradley Beal getting drafted 3rd overall and so on and so forth. I just think that Tommy Shepard, and there's difference of opinions out there. Me, you, and our buddy Dan have gone, going back and forth and stuff like that. And obviously, we all can have our own opinions and whatnot. I'm sure a lot of people out there have the same opinions as me and same opinions as you. So I just think that, people shouldn't, in my opinion, shouldn't lose faith because I believe that he's making moves for the future rather than the now, which you're seeing a lot of teams try to do for the now. Like, oh, we got this one player. Let's try to make a bunch of moves and screw ourselves for the next, 1,000 years, it feels like, because you're looking at, for instance, just crossing streams here, going to the NFL. The Rams they went all in for that year. But now they got contracts they got to pay. They got all this different stuff that they got to deal with. Look at the Saints as well. The Saints paid all these people, and they're in salary cap hell as well. So I just think that he's making the right moves, trying to possibly appeal to Bradley Beal just in case he wants to stay here, but also, just trying to set this team up to have, the next kind of Memphis Grizzlies type of situation where they somehow get lucky in the draft, which we have never gotten lucky, it feels like, for the last decade. But you're just hoping that he's doing something similar to, like I said, what the Grizzlies are doing, even though they hit with John Morant and they got a bunch of other guys on their team as well that are young guys. I just think that that's what he's trying to do is reload. And is KP going to stay here for the long haul? I don't know. He doesn't have that many years left in general. He's got that player option at the end, but yes, I believe that he's trying to say, hey, Brad, we're doing moves. We're trying to make this team formidable, and you're going to be at the helm here. But just give us a little bit more time, and then we'll figure out what we can do from here. But I like what Tommy did. I like that he made some small splashes in the koi pond, so to speak. Nothing in the big fish with James Harden and all that kind of stuff. Not that we needed that, but I just think that making a move was better than sitting, with your hands, on the seat, just doing nothing and twiddling your thumbs. So I think he's trying to do something, and I think it's a lot to say about him as the GM rather than Ernie Grunfeld for the last, 1,000 years.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things where I could totally see this working out. I could also see it not working out. So, it's too early for us. I agree. It's too early for us to fully being able to say whether these are good moves or bad moves because we haven't been able to see it really play out yet. But the problem with Kristaps is, let's say Beal does walk, and then you're kind of everything is on Kristaps' shoulders for next season. Can he manage that load for a guy that's just been hurt as much as he has? I don't know. It also would help if they add some help for him in the offseason. So there's a lot of different directions I think this team could go. I think some of these moves were the right moves. Getting Davis Bertans out of here was the right move. Trading Harrell, which was an expiring deal. He wasn't coming back to this team anyways. You might as well try to get something for him. So you take a flyer on Vernon Carey and Ish Smith is a small contract, so you don't have to worry that much about that. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's one of those things where KP hasn't even suited up yet for the Wizards yet because he's still coming off that injury. We'll hopefully see him at some point here in the second half. But if we don't, and the team keeps losing, it's not the worst thing in the world. Tank for a good draft pick because this draft has some pretty decent talent in it, especially in the top 10. So you want to be there. If you're the Wizards, you want to be, hey, potentially even a top 5 pick would be great. That's just where those stupid lottery balls fall,
Right. And hey, not to mention, though, we didn't give up 2 of the biggest assets that we thought we would have to do with Rui and Denny. Because obviously Denny hasn't proved that he is the guy that everyone thought when we drafted him, where you were seeing this guy with handles and just dominating the league that he was in. And Rui, I think he's still a developmental project now. Do I think he's going to go out there and, get 17 and 9 a game? Probably not. But at the same time, these are role guys that we got later. I would say later than like the 7th pick and stuff like that, because you always think that the top 7 guys are going to be starters for the most part. But I just think that for where we have these guys drafted at, they're going to be these kind of role guys that we need to develop and improve our team with. And then we have to go get that other superstar, which I've been saying for a while. We need to get that number 2. And that's when we're going to be dominating. But I think that's a good thing that we didn't have to give up those 2 guys for a big splash or whatever, or even just to unload Davis Bertans' contract.
Yeah, just get him out of here because he is rough. So that's the Wiz talk here today. We'll get into some more, of course, next week and kind of it's All-Star break anyways right now. So actually, it's not even like that we're missing that many games to discuss on the show because really no representation from the Wizards side of things. So for all this festivities. So, but starting next week, we'll get back into some Wiz. And, of course, the Caps have been playing as well, so we'll dive into that next week. Commanders side of things, not a ton to report. I mean, there's been some rumors out there about possible movement at the quarterback position, possible talking to Green Bay. I've seen possible talking Deshaun Watson-wise. So, a lot of rumors out there, even Russell Wilson. I mean, a lot of rumors out there. It's kind of hard to know who to believe, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see how that stuff plays out. So we'll kind of report on some of that next show as well. But you know what? We're going to relax here, Mike. We're going to sit back. We're going to relax because it's another DC crossover draft. This time, I don't think we even announced that this is what we're doing here on this episode. We are doing the TV/movie athlete draft. So these are fictional athletes. And Mike and I, similar to drafts in the past, we are each going to choose 5 athletes plus 1 coach. And then we're going to put the graphic up on the Twitter probably tomorrow and let you guys vote on your favorite team. So the best way to do that is follow us on Twitter at the DC Crossover and vote on tomorrow's graphic. So we're going to take our time. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to make our picks and try to assemble the best fictional TV or movie athletes, 5 and a coach. So, Mike, we were talking a little bit before the show. You and I had both been doing some research heading into this draft. How confident are you that you're going to be able to put together the team that you want to put together today?
I have a feeling that my team is going to be spectacular, mainly because I kind of went for guys that are not just like dominant as a whole. I went for guys that have the intangibles. I went for guys and women. I was actually putting women in there as well. I went for guys and girls that basically, like I said, have the intangibles, cannot just be like, oh, look at this guy. He is, Clubber Lang from Rocky 3 and just going to go and beat you up. So I think that, and I also specified this prior to us recording, that this is basically a dominant team. This is not a starting five for basketball. I'm not going to have
right. It's crossing over to all sports. You're just best. It's best overall athletes for sure.
Yes. So I think I'm pretty confident. Honestly, I'm pretty confident. I try to look up stats like I told you previously, but some of these movies, stuff like that, they don't really keep that stuff because it's all fake. But at the same time, I have some pretty good explanations of why. I just need to figure out who I'm actually going to pick because I have a decent list here of who I want.
I'm excited. I've got a pretty good list myself. I did do some stat diving a little bit. Obviously, since these are fictional athletes, there's only so much you can find out there on the web for these guys. But there's a couple names that I really want to make sure I snag. My coach for sure, I've got my eyes on. And then here's one kind of side rule of this. I will say, you can't, for example, pick like Michael Jordan in Space Jam because Michael Jordan is already, I know you know this, but I'm letting the people know at home.
Right.
Like you can't choose a professional athlete who happened to be in like a movie. You can't pick LeBron James from Space Jam 2 or whatever it was. and like you can't pick Michael Jordan. Like you can't pick a real athlete. These need to be the fictional athletes.
So we're just going with Space Jam examples.
Yeah. Now you could pick Bugs Bunny if you wanted in Space Jam. I think that would be a terrible pick, but you can't pick Michael Jordan. So that's the only rule. Besides that, it's kind of a free for all.
Doing snake style.
I'm excited. Yeah, we're going snake style. So that makes it more interesting as far as where you want to go if you go 1 or 2. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hold a number behind my back.
Yep.
And
the usual.
You are going to tell me what it is.
I'm gonna go with 2.
It's 1.
Oh, man.
So now I get the choice of going first or second in the draft because the advantage of going second, of course, is with Snake because you get the back-to-back picks.
Right.
And we're going to take our time with this since it's only 5 athletes and we've got a whole show here. But I'm going to go second because I want to get those back-to-back picks at the second and third spot. So we're going to turn it over to Mike. And let's talk it out a little bit here for your number 1 pick, and then you just let me know when you're ready for the music.
Okay, so, man, I know that you're going to go coach. I think that from what you said, I think you're going to go coach in one of the first 2, which I already have 2 coaches on here. So what I think is I'm just going to save my coach for the end. But I might trip you up. I'm not exactly sure. I never really know what goes on in my brain anyways.
Sure.
Neither do the doctors. So when it comes down to this pick, man, I have someone listed first, but I'm just like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna change it up because honestly, I went through like a bunch of websites and stuff like that had the lists of obvious ones that didn't really think of. But these couple that I have on the top, they're kind of interchangeable.
See, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's a true number 1 in this draft. Like, I don't think there's a no-brainer because I think there's guys where you're like, okay, I could see picking him number 1 or girls. But I could also see picking this other person number 1. So I'm with you. This is kind of a tricky spot to be in.
So my number 1 pick. Okay. There we go. Wait. So my number 1 pick is just the definition of domination.
Sure.
The definition of motivator, leader, everything you can think of. My number 1 pick overall is Apollo Creed.
Apollo Creed.
Apollo Creed.
Okay.
In Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4, he had the unfortunate demise against Ivan Drago in Rocky 4 when it was supposed to be an exhibition, and he ended up. I don't know exactly what the injury was. It was like a brain aneurysm, or I don't know what was a brain bleed that Ivan Drago ended up hitting him, and it was his demise. But he was dominant in the other movies when he did fight. And especially when him and Rocky were training, he just looked like the absolute incredible specimen of a man you could think of. Man. Yes, Carl Weathers, especially. I mean, Carl Weathers obviously has that main scene that everyone knows of just how jacked and ripped he was in the movie Predator when him and Arnold Schwarzenegger was like, I'm gonna censor. He's like, good to see you, man.
Yeah.
and they ended up doing that little handshake thing. But overall, I mean, just seeing Apollo Creed in those movies, he he didn't like Rocky in the beginning, but then all of a sudden they became friends, and he was motivating him to go out and fight this, fight that, all this kind of stuff, and basically just because Rocky. Even when I read about this, because obviously I've seen all the Rocky movies, so I'm saying when I say read about it, I'm talking about the in-depth stuff of Apollo Creed.
Sure,
they were saying that if he wasn't around, Rocky would be nothing. So that was the biggest thing. Is you're looking at Apollo Creed. He is a heavyweight boxing champ.
Yeah,
and
he
overall,
was the undisputed heavyweight world champion at the start. So no, sorry, I'll let you continue, and then I'll
the last thing the last thing I'll say is just he was just everything you can think of in one package. Where, like I said, like he's a great friend, great boxer, unbelievable, motivator, all this kind of stuff, coach, everything, trainer, everything you want to say. He's basically a mixed bag of everything, and he's an A+ in every single one of those categories.
This is a great pick, and you know what? The rubes out there may have been like, oh, I'm going to take Rocky #1 in this draft. Apollo Creed is the better, honestly, in my eyes, the better boxer, honestly. I mean, you think about, especially as a character, so, he's a combination of Muhammad Ali, they say like Sugar Ray Leonard, Joe Louis, like some of the major black boxers of the time. The character is kind of based on those guys. So we're talking about some of the best boxers of that generation. Undisputed champ. His stats, Mike, his 50 total fights, 48 wins, 2 losses. And 47 of those 48 wins were by knockout. So, honestly, in my eyes, Apollo Creed is the pick here over Rocky. Now, I'm not saying you can't pick Rocky later if you want, but I'm just saying I think that Apollo Creed is probably the best of all time in the boxing world, the master of disaster. That's the guy there.
The movie's names are the movie names are Rocky, but there's a reason why they ended up having 2 movies called Creed at the end. Recently with Michael B. Jordan. So I'm just saying, Apollo Creed, better boxer, as you said, and everything like that. But I think, like I said, he's got the mixed bag of all these different qualities that you would look for in a fictional athlete. Just saying.
Yeah, and keep in mind this, Rocky is so lucky in a lot of his matches where the guy will take 15 shots to the face, he'll be staggering around, and then he suddenly is able to lay a punch and win the fight. I mean, I'm just telling you, if you go look at the stats, the Rocky's opponents are typically hitting him a lot more than he's hitting them. He just gets a couple lucky punches in certain spots. And I feel like the master of disaster, Apollo Creed, tremendous pick there.
Well, honestly, you think about it, Apollo Creed's more of an agility fighter. He's not really this power puncher, even though he does has knockouts. Right. He's not really this power puncher type guy. When Rocky went and fought Clubber Lang in Rocky 3, he got knocked down a second. And then all of a sudden he needed Apollo Creed to pick his ass up and actually go out there and do something. And then he fought Ivan Drago and stuff like that. And that was a whole, ordeal because he ended up, passing away Apollo Creed in an exhibition fight. So I just think that, like you said, Rocky is an overrated fighter. And if you look at Rocky stats, they don't even compare to Apollo Creed's.
No, I'm with you 100%. This is a great pick. I'm not going to argue against these picks here today. If I agree with them, and sometimes
Agreed.
Mike's pick's a little suspect, but I'll tell you, that's a tremendous #1 pick. I'm actually, I fully agree with that. And if you weren't going to take him, I would have probably gone Apollo early. All right, now we have on my side of things, and this is where things get a little interesting. So, and you did bring up coach. I honestly don't think, while I have one coach in mind that I want to make sure I get, I don't know if I'm going to take him this early, or her. You never know. I might be taking them later. So I might. I mean, I know who I want to go right here, and I'm not even going to beat around the bush here.
Okay.
With the second pick in the fictional movie TV athlete draft, I have selected Roy Hobbs from The Natural. Roy Hobbs, played by Robert Redford. For those unfamiliar, basically Hobbs, as a teenager, was going to be getting a baseball tryout. He never was able to do so. He ends up making the majors when he's 34 years old. He joins the fictional New York Knights and plays in the outfield, leads him to a playoff. He hits that crazy towering home run and breaks the frickin' the lights or whatever. And so Bill Simmons went in and compiled the stats for Roy Hobbs based around stuff we got to see in the film and things like that. And here's some of the stats that Bill Simmons compiled here. So for the 1939 season, for 35-year-old Roy Hobbs, 115 games, 400 at bats, 44 home runs, 106 RBI, 350 batting average, a 750 slugging, and 1.197 OPS. So a pretty ridiculous season for Roy Hobbs. I think one of the best fictional baseball players of all time in TV and movies. And he is my first pick here in the second overall pick. I'm going Roy Hobbs from The Natural.
So honestly, not gonna lie, never seen The Natural. Never really thought about seeing it. I saw Bull Durham for the first time ever like 2 years ago. But I mean, Robert Redford, great actor and everything like that. So Jeremiah Johnson. So you're just looking at this pick. I just think that's because I don't even have him on my list. So
hey, look, that's your mistake.
That's not bad for you. Like I've said, I'm not gonna bash the pick. I just think that you could have stole one of my other ones on my list, and I don't think I don't even think he's the best baseball player in the entire fictional arena.
I mean, the guy entered the majors at 35 and was able to get it done. And from a hitting perspective, I mean, that's the thing. So I like my pick here. I'm comfortable with my pick here.
All right.
But I do agree that I probably could have gotten him later. So I understand that side of things. Okay. I wonder. Okay. I know where I'm going next here. I don't even need to. All right.
Okay.
For the third overall pick and my second pick, I am going with the fictional basketball player from Indiana high school basketball, Jimmy Chitwood. I'm going with Jimmy Chitwood from Hoosiers, of course, the classic Hoosiers, the Hickory Huskers, and one of the most dominant high school athletes I've seen in my time. The folks over at Deadspin, who I don't really like Deadspin, but they compiled about 100 possessions for the Hickory Huskers and kind of showed what Jimmy's stats were in that time. Jimmy scored 40 points, was 20 for 23 from the field, a couple assists, some steals. Bill Simmons, again, also did something kind of similar where he did a hypothetical box score of the state final by keeping track of the makes and misses from the movie. I'm just saying Jimmy Chitwood was fantastic. In the entire movie, they only showed Jimmy missing 4 shots in the entire movie, including just shooting in the gym or in practice or things like that. So the guy was lights out.
It's like me at work.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you at work. He is lights out from the field. And the box score in the state championship game, Jimmy finished 14 for 18 from the field, 30 points, 6 rebounds, and 32 minutes of play. So he was definitely the MVP for the Hickory Huskers, and in my eyes, one of the better basketball player picks here. So I'm going Jimmy Chitwood for my pick.
Chitwood. So honestly, Hoosiers, I did see Jimmy Chitwood on a bunch of them, but I just think that he doesn't have great communication skills. They always just passed him the ball. I mean, even when Coach Norman Dale went over there and was like, "Hey, Jimmy, I want you to play some basketball for me," and he was like just staring at him. It's like, all right,
he's a quiet leader. He's a quiet leader. He gets the job done, though. You have him on the floor, you know he's going to put up some numbers for you. That's the thing.
He's going to put up some numbers. I just think that he's not the total package. But you know what? I mean, hey, if he's going to miss 4 shots in the entire movie,
yeah, the guy's lights out from the field. I really like his shooting abilities there. So right now, off the board, Apollo Creed, Roy Hobbs, Jimmy Chitwood. Things turn back to Mike for the next 2 picks here. So you've got back-to-back picks. Let's hear where you're going to go here with number 4. Are you still thinking it over right now, or
no? I'm going above and beyond with somebody that plays the game of baseball.
Okay, this is interesting. Okay,
so you said Roy Hobbs. Okay, the lesser of the Roys. All right. So I'm honestly going to draft a Roy, but I'm not going to do it right now.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Dottie Hinson from A League of
Oh,
Their Own.
interesting. I thought you were going somewhere else. Okay.
Dottie Hinson,
Sure.
okay. She honestly is the epitome of the most complete baseball, it's just physical specimen when it comes to like actual, team sports. That's not boxing, like I said, with Apollo Creed. She goes out there, plays catcher, hits 70 bombs, whenever they need it. Tom Hanks is out there saying, "Oh, Dottie, come on now, you gotta pick up your sister Kit." I don't know why my voice went like that.
Well, that's what he talked like in the movie. So.
But I mean, literally, Dottie Hinson was playing catcher. She's getting bulldozed every 2 seconds because they're trying to make a name for themselves for the league and all this kind of stuff. And she only played 2 seasons and literally got into the Hall of Fame. So you're looking at it and saying that Dottie, actually, I don't know if it was 2 seasons. It might have just been that one. I'm not exactly sure. I think it might just be 1 season. She got into the Hall of Fame. And honestly, she is the epitome of a baseball player that you want on your team because she's a leader behind the dish. She hits cleanup or third. I don't know exactly what she hit. I think she hit cleanup because I think the blonde, not Betty Spaghetti. Who was it? Not Marla Hooch. Marla Hooch hit third. So maybe I'm not exactly sure. I got to go back and look at the lineup. But Dottie was out there being a boss behind the plate, and she ended up hitting like 1 million home runs, was a great average. I would put her stats in her 1 season or whatever against Roy Hobbs.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, look,
the Rockford Peaches.
The Rockford Peaches. Dottie Hinson was, I'd say, like the Michael Jordan of women's baseball at that time.
Yep.
But again, let's remember that I don't want to bring in too much about Roy Hobbs again, but let's remember the guy was 35 years old playing in the major leagues for the first time in his life, and he's, dominating and leading the team to the playoffs. Dottie Hinson, leader for sure, especially behind the plate, especially with the physicality of the game at the time. I mean, these girls were having to wear skirts, and they were getting like their legs all torn up and things like that. I mean, it was a little rough scene for the Rockford Peaches. So I'm not hating on the pick. I am disagreeing with Dottie being better than Roy Hobbs, but I like the pick here. I think you've got 2 pretty heavy hitters at the top of your lineup right now. So let's hear where you're going next.
Okay, so my next one, man, I was gonna go with a coach because I now have 3 on my list. But honestly, I'm going to say screw it, and I'm honestly just going to go with a wild card here. Throw a wild card in here, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to go with the better Roy Tin Cup McAvoy from Tin Cup.
Okay.
So Roy McAvoy, everyone said he had the skills to go on pro and stuff like that, but he just didn't have the mindset. And you had which one is it? Cheech or Chong? Who was his caddy? I don't know which one. I've never seen Cheech or Chong, but I just know that he's in the movie. But whatever that guy's name is. But honestly, you just see Roy McAvoy go out there and he drained one from 210 yards or whatever it was, the last ball in his bag, got the crowd rocking. He had a 62 at the U.S. Open after hitting an 83. What athlete can you say went out there and ended up hitting a 21-stroke better round the very next day after completely melting down on the very first day of the U.S. Open? So honestly, Roy Tin Cup McAvoy.
It was Cheech.
Cheech. Okay. I don't know which one's which, but anyways, that's Cheecher. All right. So Roy Tin Cup McAvoy went from the driving range and he ended up going all the way to the U.S. Open qualifier. Ended up hitting, I think it was like a 9 under or an even par or something like that with a 7-iron in his bag for the U.S. Open qualifier. So honestly, when you're talking about a 7-iron, he went around the entire back 9 or whatever with a 7-iron in his bag, no putter, no driver, ended up hitting, I think it was even par in the entire U.S. Open qualifier back 9. So that's pretty impressive, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think, and he did automatically qualify for next year's Open as well from his performance there. He didn't end up winning the U.S. Open, which is partly why I don't know if I love the pick here, is the guy didn't even end up, winning the U.S. Open, and he struggled on the first day. And so, I just think there's some evidence there that I don't know if Roy was fully in this thing, but I will say the story itself is always the real fun part with Tin Cup, in the fact that there are guys like that where you don't see him on the PGA Tour, but you'll see him sometimes on the Champions Tour, where you've never heard of these guys. They're just like local pros at their particular course, but they just have been playing the game for so long, and they just and they finally get a shot like when they're older and stuff, and they're beginning to play on some of those older tours. So it's an inspiring story. I don't think Romeo the caddy did his job throughout. He was high as balls the whole time, but and that probably did not help Roy's heads in the situation. But especially when he went driver in the qualifying round when he should have he should have laid up. That was a tough decision there. So I'm just saying, I don't know. That was when Romeo ended up quitting and all that stuff. It's just a lot of chaos with McAvoy, but you can't deny his golfing abilities are there. So yeah, I don't hate the pick.
It's a long shot, man. You got to go with the long shots because you got to appeal to the crowd. Now he even got the girl at the end. Now
right.
I love I love Adam Sandler, but I'm not going to go with Happy Gilmore, who won a few tournaments.
No, I don't have Happy. I'm not picking Happy Gilmore, but hey, you don't give away picks though. You can't spoil it in case I was going Happy next. I'm not. I'm with you, Roy McAvoy. I don't know though. There's another golfer in that movie that I would maybe put up against Roy McAvoy, and his name is not Happy. There's a different guy.
In Tin Cup? Oh, okay.
No,
You're talking about... okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking... Now, I'm not making that pick. But I'm just saying.
The dad from Leave It to Beaver.
Right. He might be more of a mix. I'd like to see him play against Roy McAvoy. I think that would be a good match.
Right.
All right. So Mike goes with Dottie Henson and Roy Tin Cup McAvoy. So he's got 3 of his 5, plus he'll need a coach. It will be my back-to-back picks here now. All right. So I got Roy Hobbs and Jimmy Chitwood. I'm going with a lot of old school picks. I know.
Classics.
Oof. All right. I know where I'm going next.
Okay. Let's hear it.
All right, with the 6th pick in the TV movie athlete draft. Oh, man. Actually, I'm changing my mind here.
Oh, boy. Don't screw up your team here.
Okay. I will select my coach now. And I will... Let me give you some of his coaching statistics here. All right. His record... let's see. Where is his record? Okay, so as head coach of the Dillon Panthers for 3 seasons and the Lions for 2, Eric Taylor compiled an impressive 43-16 record, including 4 playoff appearances, 3 state finals appearances, and 2 state championships. With the Panthers, he was 28-7, including 11-2 season and a 12-2 season. And then in 2006, he won the state final. In 2008, he reached the state final, respectively, with the Lions. So keep in mind, if for those who don't remember, the East Dillon Lions, or was it the West Dillon Lions? Whatever. One of the Dillon Lions, when they opened the football program for this other school, had not been really in existence for a while. For the East Dillon Lions, that's what it was. And Coach Eric Taylor took over a program, and in 2009 they were 2-8, terrible, and he turns them around in 1 year and gets them to the state title game and wins. And they compile an 8-1 record, and they win. They go undefeated in the postseason, and he wins a state title. So he wins a state title for the Dillon Panthers in 2006. He makes the state quarters the next year and loses. He loses again in the state title game. He switches schools, and then he wins the state. The guy's a kingmaker. They called him a kingmaker in the show. He turned Matt Saracen, who was a garbage quarterback with no confidence, into a state title quarterback after Jason Street broke his back. Then he goes to East Dillon, and he turns whatever the kid's name, Michael B. Jordan played him, Vince, I forget his last name.
Vince Howard.
Yeah, Vince Howard. Into an absolute dominance force. This was a guy going to juvie. This was a guy that was headed down to the jail path, and Coach Eric Taylor turns him into one of the best dual threat quarterbacks that Texas had seen at the time. And I'm just saying, I mean, the discipline he instilled in his players, the ability to really get the best out of these guys, one of the best football coaches I've seen in fictional television or movies. I'm going with Coach Eric Taylor.
So the accolades speak for themselves, but I just think that, when you're looking at Eric Taylor, he went into a program, the Dillon Panthers, that, I mean, they were just dominant before he got there and everything like that. I just think that when you're looking at his stature as the Dillon Panthers head coach, it was good, but I just don't think that, with all the talent he had there, yes, Matt Saracen was barely hitting the tire swing in his front yard when he took him over. So I get that. But I mean, to go win a state championship and then to go to the quarterfinals, to make it to the finals, or whatever, all that stuff. And then he goes to the East Dillon Panthers, has, Vince as his quarterback. And then he ends up poaching the other kid, Cafferty.
Luke Cafferty,
from the CMC
of
TV.
It was the redistricting, so it wasn't technically Coach Eric Taylor's fault. But yeah, he brought in a terrific player there.
But when you mold, Vince as you said, one of the best dual threats in all of Texas, and then all of a sudden you have your quarterback and you get Luke Cafferty, who played both ways and was just a dominant force and was a dominant player for the Dillon Panthers. I mean, it's not that hard to go, especially in high school football. Not that hard. I mean, Texas is a little bit different, but not that hard.
That's what we're talking about, though. We're talking about Texas football, Mike. We're talking about the Larrabee Lions and the South Texas Titans and the West Cambria Mustangs. We're talking about some of the most dominant teams in high school football. Coach Eric Taylor took a terrible program all the way to the state championship game with basically two players. I mean, Landry Clark was his field goal kicker, Mike. I mean, what are we doing here? Landry Clark was kicking field goals.
Yeah, he was kicking field goals with Tyra. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it's not a bad pick. I'm not going to say it's a bad pick because obviously you did have some good stats to go behind it and everything like that. I just think when it comes to coaches, which I will do mine at the very end, because it's going to be another.
Now that I've already picked my coach, you can take it.
It'll be another curveball, though, to be honest with you. But it's not a bad pick. Eric Taylor, not a bad pick.
Okay, I appreciate that. Going along the Eric Taylor route, if I'm going to take Coach Eric Taylor, I'm going to have to take one of the most underrated athletes in Texas football history, and that's Mr. Tim Riggins. Tim Riggins, an absolute dominant force at fullback. I mean, this guy, you watch the tape, and this guy was unbelievable. I mean, he was a man. Let's be honest. Like, this guy was he was playing against like 15-year-olds or whatever, and this guy was like 25 out on the field, basically. I mean, he was running over guys. He was a power back, namely used for his blocking. But then when Smash Williams graduated, who was their dominant tailback, suddenly Tim Riggins was given the job at H-back, basically. So he had to really kind of settle in here and carry the load in the run game when he was usually more of a blocking fullback. And he was able to do so with the power game. And especially for at times when Matt Saracen, Mike, was going through some drama here and there, he wasn't really performing up to his potential. Tim Riggins was able to really carry the load here. Now, the only knock you could say on Tim Riggins is he never ended up going to go play for a big-time program. I mean, the San Antonio State was where he ended up, and then he left. He could have probably honestly, he could have gone into a better school, but I think his grades were bad because the guy was drinking every single episode of the show. But also keep that in mind. Tim Riggins was playing every game with a hangover, Mike. Every game with a hangover, every practice with a hangover. The guy was able to get it done at the end of the day, and he loved the game. And so, not the best leader, but by the end of the show, you end up really liking him a lot. But I'm just saying, like athlete-wise, Tim Riggins was a dominant player.
I figured that you were going to pick him, so I didn't even put him on my list because Tim Riggins, I mean, everyone knows who Tim Riggins is. Taylor Kitsch will always be known as Tim Riggins. Like, no one's going to say, oh, yeah, you played in Battleship. No one cares. Okay, so you're looking at it. And Taylor Kitsch actually played a very, very good character where you're saying he was like drunk all the time. You could always see he was like felt like he was sweating all the time. Like, but you couldn't see the sweat. Like he like the hangover sweats and stuff that. Yeah. So it just looked like, and he would just, like you said, he would go out there and run a Spider 2 Y banana, and all of a sudden he would be knocking people over after drinking a 12-pack the night before. So great pick. I love Tim Riggins. I think that's going to resonate with the fans. But I got some surprises coming your way here.
All right. Let's hear. You got back-to-back picks here. Again, right now, the picks have been Apollo Creed, Roy Hobbs, Jimmy Chitwood, Dottie Henson, Roy Tin Cup McAvoy, Eric Taylor, and Tim Riggins. Right now, Mike has 2 spots left for his team and 1 coaching spot left. I have 2 player spots left. All right, you got back-to-back picks here.
So I have a lot of Friday Night Lights people on here because obviously those are the most well-known and whatnot to go on there. Oh, man. Totally forgot about a couple other people. Oh man, geez, I might need to do a swerve. Yeah, I'm not picking this person because I totally forgot about my favorite movie of all time, which is Remember the Titans. Geez, I need to figure out what his name is in the movie. But I'll go with this pick first.
Sure.
I'm gonna go with this player. I'm gonna find his name in just a second.
All right. Take your time.
So obviously, Remember the Titans, as a lot of people do know,
Classic.
It is my favorite movie of all time, and I liked how some people said it was overrated, which made no sense.
No.
Because it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, how is that movie overrated? It's a true story, and you have famous actors playing each part. Now I'm not going to pick Alan, who is Ryan Gosling, because he is trash.
Right.
But I am going to pick my pick, which you can start the music, sir.
Oh yeah, I thought I already hit. Okay.
So, man. Okay. Oh man. I'm really
scrambling right now, people. I hope you're paying attention to this.
Yeah. So here we go. So my pick is going to be Ronnie Sunshine Bass.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Ronnie Sunshine Bass, obviously, he came in there from California, and he didn't really have this understanding of how much discipline is really needed to play for Coach Herman Boone and all that kind of stuff, and Coach Bill Yost and everything like that. So coming from California, they're slinging the rock over there. He had long hair, and they made him cut his hair, and he had to, fit in with the boys because he came late to camp and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
His dad was in the military, all this kind of stuff. So you look at Ronnie Sunshine Bass, and recently, over the last week or so, I actually saw something that said we're going to be ranking Madden style the players from Remember the Titans, and Ronnie Sunshine Bass was a 99.
Wow.
He's got the triple option, he's got the regular option, speed option, whatever option you want to run with him, and he's got the gunslinger attitude. He's a lefty. I mean, what can you not like? And the guy looks like a ray of sunshine. I mean, the guy is a monster under center. So I'm gonna go with Ronnie Sunshine Bass as my next pick.
It's not a bad idea at all. Definitely a dominant quarterback. And the real Ronnie Bass also was pretty dang dominant too, because he ended up playing at South Carolina for 4 years, and the real Ronnie Bass. But yeah, I think Sunshine was one of those. I think there's a couple players in that movie like Campbell and Bertier that you immediately think of, but then you forget that Sunshine had a killer arm and really held down the fort at the QB position. So, I think he doesn't get the respect that I feel like he should, because a lot of it is on those other guys. So, yeah, like Campbell and things like that. But no, I like the pick there. I like Sunshine. He's fun.
So I was going to go with a different quarterback for that pick. And I also had my other pick ready to rock and roll as well. But I'm going to swerve here a little bit. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm going with it. So I'm going to go with the Allen Iverson of basketball, and I'm going to go with Lola Bunny. Lola Bunny.
Wow, this is an interesting pick here. Okay.
So Lola Bunny, just despite her great looks in the 90s, now they basically made her look like a normal person.
Right.
Space Jam 2. Lola Bunny was literally the Allen Iverson of that team. Was she sitting there and doing all these, I'm going to, dig a hole in the floor and then pop up next to the basket? No. She just got the handles. She was MJ's right-hand woman right there, where he would just dish it off to her, and she'd be jacking up shots and has the handles to go around all the Monstars and everything like that. I just think that she was so dominant that she got overlooked because, like I said, you had Tasmanian Devil and you had Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote and all these Foghorn Leghorn, all these guys doing these weird little bits and skits that it overshadowed how dominant she was as a normal basketball player. So when you're looking at it, I'm going to go with again. I like going off the cliff here, man, and just taking a dive and trying to miss the rocks. Okay, because I want to make sure that my team looks like a team that's not manufactured by a computer somewhere.
Now this is interesting. I think I don't know about this one, Mike. I think this might have been your misstep. They did the Harvard College Sports Analysis Collective did put together a box score from the game, and Lola Bunny had a decent game, 4 for 4 from the field for 8 points, but she didn't really add much anywhere else. No steals, no assists. I mean, Bugs had 3 assists at least and 10 points. Michael Jordan, of course, 44 points in the game. But Lola Bunny, kind of the third option for this team on offense, and I just don't know if I can put a third option person on this team because – yeah, I mean, I still think Bugs, when you look at the numbers, still had a better game than she did. He went 5 for 5 from the field. Lola Bunny, 4 for 4. I mean, I agree with you. She's an athlete. I'm not going to lie. She definitely, was a solid member of the team, but I think this might be where you misstep.
I honestly had a different player in mind, but I didn't want to go the same position. So,
understood. Okay.
Because I wanted to try it. I mean, look, I got a boxer, baseball, golf, football, and a basketball. So I got basically one of every sport so far. I didn't even realize that. But I didn't want to go with another pick, which I'm not going to say just yet. Obviously, because you haven't gone yet. But
right.
I'll say that after in my honorable mentions.
Okay. So I mean, look, it's not the worst pick in the world. I think you're going to look back and regret that one. But hey, you know what? The fans will decide. All right. So for mine, I got 2 picks left, and this will be my final picks. Right now, my team is Roy Hobbs, Jimmy Chitwood, Tim Riggins, and it's being coached by Eric Taylor. So I've got a baseball, a basketball, a football. A lot of different directions I could go here. I'm looking at my list right now. And we'll definitely do some honorable mentions at the end. But
right.
Man, this is tough. I think I'm going to go baseball again. And I think I'm going to go with Benjamin Franklin, Benny Rodriguez, Benny the Jet from Los Angeles, California.
At first, I was like, wait, who is this guy?
I'm going with Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
Good.
Pretty dominant player as a child. They did go in and put what his possible stats would have been if he had played, just like the other the other stuff, and they gave him some pretty decent stats. I was gonna pull him up. Let's see, Benny Rodriguez, not as good, not as dominant as Roy Hobbs, but basically he ended up as a career 280 hitter, 725 home runs though. I mean, that's quite a lot. 1,420 RBI. He made his MLB debut in 1968 for the Albuquerque Greens. So
the Greens.
Yeah, apparently that's a team. 23-time All-Star, apparently. 8-time World Series champion. So the guy had a heck of a career. But yeah, I'm gonna go with now look, I mean, did we get to see a lot of this play out in the movie? No, but you could tell early on that Benny the Jet Rodriguez was not only the leader of the Sandlot group, but the best athlete of them all. I mean, he was the best athlete on the field day in and day out. Now, it wasn't hard to be the best athlete with a couple of those guys out there, but I think he had all the making of a future Hall of Famer in MLB. So I'm going Benny the Jet Rodriguez, Mike.
Honestly, it's not a bad pick, but I mean, like you mentioned, you said a couple things at the end there. it's not that hard to be the best player on the Sandlot when you have Squints out there. I mean, the best player besides him is Ham. So you're looking at it, and Ham wasn't even that great because he ran like a 6.240. So you're looking at it at the combine.
That's true.
And I had him on my list, but like you said, they just didn't have anything because I couldn't really pick a 13-year-old kid or whatever as my top athletes. I mean, I know he's really good, and he did his little wave to with the guy with the fish hat, right. in the press box. But I just don't. I mean, he played for the Albuquerque Greens. I mean, let's be honest here. So I just think the Greens are just a subpar team. But that's okay. That's okay. That's your pick.
All right, yeah, that's my pick there, Mike. So this last one, this is tough for me. There's a lot because it's my last guy on the team. Right now, my team has Roy Hobbs, Jimmy Chitwood, Tim Riggins, Benny the Jet Rodriguez. It's an interesting group. Tim's drunk in the corner. Benny's 12. Chitwood isn't saying a word. And then Roy Hobbs is kind of the elder statesman of the group, and Eric Taylor's just getting pissed off.
He said elder statesman.
Man, this is tough. I think I'll just go ahead and because I'll just say it. I think I'm gonna go here. Man, I was waffling through a couple options here. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm going back to basketball. I don't love this pick, but I'm going to go with Billy Hoyle, White Man Can't Jump. Billy Hoyle will be my pick. It is one of the best basketball films ever made, for sure.
Never seen it.
Oh, man. Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson. Basically,
it's on Hulu, though, so I can watch it now.
You should watch it. It is a great basketball movie. The wildest thing is that Billy Hoyle, so it's basically a lot of like pickup or like street basketball with these two guys, and they're dominant. And Billy Hoyle was able to even dunk in the movie when this is clearly a guy in his 30s. He's like 5'9". He's able to dunk. He's able to shoot. I mean, he is a solid piece of this two-man team here. And the biggest moment, I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but let's just say he makes some key plays late in the tournament and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go Billy Hoyle. I really like the dynamic he brings to the group as well, and that's going to be my pick to round out my team, Mike.
So I think that honestly, you said it's one of the best basketball movies. I haven't seen it. I know what the movie is, but at the same time, I think that's on par with Lola Bunny. When you're looking at it, Lola Bunny could dunk too, but she could also do a lot more things.
Well, again, 4 for 4 from the field, Mike. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, hey, they needed major repairs on the floor after every single play. So
that's true. That's true.
My last pick.
Last pick here. So you need your coach.
Yep. So this might win me the entire thing. Because I don't think you even thought about this guy.
Okay, I'm interested.
Hey, I was gonna say something else, but then I forgot what I said. So my last pick, the head coach of this squad, this appealing squad,
right,
is Mr. Miyagi.
Okay, I did think of that. That. Now I wasn't gonna go with it, but okay, all right,
Mr. Miyagi. Okay, think about this. You want to talk about stats from Eric Taylor? Mr. Miyagi. Literally had the scrawniest kid who was getting bullied by Cobra Kai and all this kind of stuff, and Ralph Macchio,
right?
And literally turned him into a 2-time All Valley karate championship by literally making him sand his deck. So you're looking at him and saying that he literally trained this scrawny kid that wanted to be with the hot girl from Adventures of the Babysitter or something like that, whatever movie that was.
Right.
What was her name? Elizabeth Cuthbert, or so I forgot what her name was. That might be a different person, but literally you're sitting here and looking at Mr. Miyagi saying this guy only had a one-man squad to go against up 2 military veterans in Cobra Kai, and Cobra Kai, he took down the entire Cobra Kai twice.
Right.
And he was getting beaten up all throughout his training because Johnny and all the other guys were sitting there beating him up at school in the skeleton costumes and everything like that. And Mr. Miyagi went out there and beat up the kids, which is now assault. But you're looking at it, and now you're looking at it. And I mean, come on now. He won the All Valley Championship. Ralph Macchio did 2 times in a row, and he had a guy literally who was making him sand decks and paint fences and all that kind of stuff, and basically playing defense the entire time.
Right.
End up going out there and winning a karate championship in the All Valley District.
Also, don't forget, he also had another student, Julie Pierce, as well, who he ended up mentoring, and I don't think she ended up doing like a big like tournament fight, but still, he had a couple students, and Daniel LaRusso and Julie Pierce. And
well, I mean, think about this. If you go back to the new show Cobra Kai, you're looking at all these different things about him in Okinawa, and all of a sudden you're seeing him going. He's has this dojo over there, and he's like a famous person. I mean, it's like, let's be honest here, Mr. Miyagi might bring this home for me, because if people actually don't just look at the picture, the graphic, and they actually think farther in,
that's the problem though. You're relying on them to actually use their brains, and that's a tough ask. No, I don't hate the pick. I don't hate the pick. He was in my mind as a possible guy to look at too. So to round out the squads here again, Mike's team has Apollo Creed, Dottie Henson, Roy Tin Cup McAvoy, Ronnie Sunshine Bass, and Lola Bunny, coached by Mr. Miyagi. I've got Roy Hobbs, Jimmy Chitwood, Tim Riggins, Benny the Jet Rodriguez, and Billy Hoyle, coached by Eric Taylor. Some honorable mentions, some ones that didn't end up making the list here. Jackie Moon, I thought possible. Sidney Dean, who's the other guy in White Man Can't Jump. Bobby Boucher. I did have Rocky on my list as a possible guy, but I wasn't going to take him, especially if you took Apollo. Happy Gilmore I also had in here, but honestly, Shooter McGavin I think wouldn't have been a bad pick. And that's about it for what I had as far as who was left off the list on your end.
So I had Vince Howard from Friday Night Lights, Brian Smash Williams from Friday Night Lights TV show, then Booby Miles from Friday Night Lights the movie, Willie Mays Hayes, an incredible center fielder who basically hit ground balls for hits, Gordon Bombay as a coach. You had Benny the Jet, Norman Dale, coach for Hoosiers, and the one that I should have taken probably over Lola Bunny was Shane Falco. So I wanted Shane Falco because Shane Falco was dominant.
I was also thinking about Wild Thing, also Ricky Wild Thing.
Yeah.
So there's obviously one. I mean, everyone, when we post our list, everyone's gonna be like, "How could you not take so and so?" But look, this is our teams. We got it done here. That's your TV athlete movie draft here on our episode.
Bingo.
100. We're already over an hour here, so we'll just wrap up with a couple things. I did want to, we'll just quickly hit them with a segment that we used to do back in the day, a little bit of grinds.
You know what really grinds my gears? 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 You, America. And that, people, is what grinds my gears.
It's an old segment we used to do on the show. We're bringing it back here for episode 100, and basically, the segment's simple. Mike and I just tell each other something that really gets on our nerves, something maybe that happened recently or something in general, and we just let it out, you know. The one I have picked here, Mike, is one I've kind of been. I don't think we talked about it on the show, but for those who either are homeowners or live in some sort of neighborhood or something like that, the thing that's kind of popped up over the last few years or so was an app called Nextdoor. And on this app, this is where people basically, anyone in the neighborhood joins this app, and it becomes a social network for like neighborhoods specifically. So anybody that lives in these neighborhoods can post on the app. And my big issue with this is, in theory, the Nextdoor app could be used in a couple positive ways. It could be used to like get rid of junk or something like that. Like, hey, I've got this extra thing, I can put it on my porch. Like I sold something on there not too long ago. It could also be used for safety things, like, oh, does anybody know why there's the helicopter flying over our neighborhood? And it's like, oh, because there's a gunman running through our backyard. You know, that sort of stuff. That is what the app should be used for, Mike. The app is not used for that, Mike. The app it's somewhat used for that, but a lot of people just use the app for what they should have just Googled. Like they'll have like like this person posted like, "Hi everybody, I'm looking for a company that prints T-shirts." It's like, why are you posting that on the Nextdoor app when you could just Google company that like T-shirt printer or something like that? This person was like, "Hi neighbors, does anyone know a roofing contractor?" It's like, again, you could just Google this. This person posted, dwarf hamster needs a new home. I don't need to see this stupid, your dwarf hamster. Why don't you figure this out? This person was like, I have a
what's a dwarf hamster?
I have no idea. I have a chemical smell coming from the air vents in my kitchen area. It's like, why are you telling us this? Why do we care? We're not going to help you with this stuff. The apps, and then sometimes like people will post something like political, and then that becomes a giant thing. I've been involved with a couple scraps on the Nextdoor app where like somebody posted something stupid, and I had to like say something like "this is stupid," and that definitely doesn't tend to go well for me. It's one of those things where people love telling you things about their lives. Lonely people love to post on any social media or on Twitter nonstop, telling you every little detail about their lives that you don't need to know. And Nextdoor is a prime example for that. And for those who listen to this podcast that know what I'm talking about, that have that app, I'm telling you, like it is unbearable. Some of the posts people would be like, does anybody know where I can get a dog? It's like, yeah, you can go find this out. You don't have to go use your brain and do some research. It's embarrassing, Mike. Nextdoor app definitely grinds my gears.
Honestly, I've never heard of the app, so I might have to go check it out. Even though I do have an app for my complex, but at the same time, what grinds my gears about that app, real quick, is that people go on there and it sends me weird like notifications saying, oh, there's a new post on the app. It sends me like every 5 days. It'll send me like 7 emails about it. I'm like, all right, I don't need. And one will say like broken chair looking for a dumpster or something like that'll take it or like weird things. And it's like there's a dumpster outside. Like go put it in there. Like why are you? It's like you said, common sense that like if you need a roofing company, search roofing company.
Yeah, go find it yourself. You don't just rely. Everyone is not here to just give you answers to questions you have.
Yeah, seriously. So I totally agree with that. Obviously, people just don't use their brain out there sometimes when it comes to common sense. So my grinds my gears today. I had to think about it for a hot second, but I've had some situations recently that have gone on. So obviously, as you know, I got involved in a hit and run. Not me, but my car was parked and it got hit overnight. And then I went through this whole rigmarole with somebody. And I'll have to tell you that off air or next episode because it's a longer story. But obviously, I have to think about, okay, well, I'm not paying $500 for a deductible for this big huge scratch thing or scuff on my bumper. But Geico, and I'm going to say Geico because they're not a fan of the show.
Yeah, they're not a sponsor.
So they ended up raising my 6-month premium by like $97.
Oh.
So it's like $200 more a year.
Something that you didn't do.
And I ended up asking the lady on the chat. I said, so my premium says, $620 or something like that. It used to be $530 every 6 months. And she's like, yes, that's the new premium that you have to pay. And I said, okay, but why did it go up $90?
Yeah, why did it go up?
and she says, statewide rate increases. I said, what does that have to do with anything? I said, that makes no sense. Like, so you're just going to raise your insurance. She's like, well, everything is costing more nowadays. And I'm like, that doesn't mean you have to pay. You have to literally give me, a rate increase. I was so pissed because honestly, I got screwed.
That's not a small increase too. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, almost $200 a year. Like, come on, that's like, statewide. So me, this small little peon in this ocean of Geico customers, $200 is really gonna. Come on now. Like, and I even asked her. I said, well, do you have any more discounts that I can get or something like that? I was like, I'm a teacher and stuff like that. So obviously, I typed in a bunch of different things, and I already have a ton of discounts and. But it's still outrageously high. I said, I'm a teacher. Do you guys have good discounts to teachers? Because obviously, first responders, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They give discounts out for that kind of stuff. And then she types back, oh my gosh, I love educators. And I said, okay. Okay.
I got a girlfriend. Like, relax.
I was like, all right. And she was like, okay, I'll go check for you. 10 minutes pass. She comes back and says, sorry, there is none. And I was like,
she's like, I love educators. Geico doesn't. So no discounts for you.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. So then all of a sudden I'm looking at it. I'm just like, you're raising my rates. and then I ended up getting this discount called Drive Easy or Drive Safe, something like that. I think I told you before.
Right, with the app.
Yeah, and it's like
that was
GPS
hilarious.
following me. Like,
yeah.
So
you told it on the show. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm just like, this is absolutely ridiculous. So now I the other day I shopped my insurance. I was looking at different things. Allstate would charge me like $87 less for every coverage, the exact same.
Not bad. Not a
So
bad idea.
how does Allstate do that, but Geico can't? I'm like, this is ridiculous. So,
they're paying the Gecko salary too much.
Yeah, apparently, because
Geico must have asked for more, I guess.
Well, I told you that years ago. I ended up, I changed addresses. I forgot to change my address, and at that time, like the app wasn't like getting notifications or something like that.
Right.
And I ended up getting, I usually got something in the mail like 2 weeks ahead of time saying, "Hey, pay your bill every 6 months."
I remember this. Yeah.
And it was like $4.40, and then when I had called them, I said, "Hey, sorry, I have my money right now. I forgot to change the address." They were like, "No, we had to start a whole new policy for you. Now it's like $5.90." I said, "So it went up $300 because I missed 2 weeks."
Oh,
like,
God, all that insurance stuff,
such a scam,
such scammy, scummy stuff. That's
garbage.
I hate communicating with all that stuff. That's what grinds our gears. If you want to add something that grinds your gears, feel free to tweet us at the DC Crossover and at Cerrone16. We'll round out the show here. We'll skip the trivia for now because we'll save it for next episode. But we'll just quickly hit up the money line just because we didn't get a chance to talk about our previous picks. Of course, unfortunately, the Super Bowl kind of screwed me because I had the Rams, but they didn't cover. The Rams ended up winning the game, but didn't cover the spread. So I'm 21-22, and you're 24-19. So Mike's on a nice little run here as we near the end here of this other round of picks. So I think after these picks here, I think this will be the it for round 2. So for this week. We'll give our picks here. My lock this week. I mean, it's tough now. Now it's just a lot of college basketball, basically. I'm going Villanova over UConn on Tuesday. Villanova favored by 5. I'm saying that Villanova's a pretty awesome team. I'm going to say they're going to beat UConn by more than 5 points. And then my dog, that's a shot in the dark. I'm just saying Indiana covering the 7.5 versus Ohio State. A complete shot in the dark, Mike. That's my dog. I have no evidence to back this up. I'm just saying Indiana's covering that 7.5 tonight.
Well, that's the problem is that we've talked about is now there's not a lot of games that have spreads ahead of time. So my lock is tonight, Penn State plus 2.5 at Maryland. Maryland's they had a decent game the other night against Iowa or whoever it was.
They're
Purdue.
Very up and down. Yeah.
It was against Purdue. Iowa, they got crushed. They got like 110 points against Iowa. But I'm going to go with Penn State plus 2.5 at UMD tonight. And then I got Virginia Tech covering the spread, whatever it is, this Saturday because the spread's not available right now at Miami because Miami is like 19-10 or something like that. Tech is, up and down so far this season, but they lost by a buzzer beater last time. So I assume the spread would probably be like 4.5 or 5. So I'm going to take Virginia Tech, the Hokies, in a close one, covering their spread as the dog against Miami this Saturday.
Those are our money line picks, and that about does it for 100 episodes in the books. We gave you a draft. We'll be doing more and more of these drafts, especially as summertime hits. Basically, when we get post hockey and basketball and things like that, especially if the Wizards are out of it, which they will be, basically once the Caps get eliminated for playoffs, it's only Nats talk for the most part. So we'll be definitely doing some drafts in the mix there. We got quite a few ideas for some. If you ever have an idea for a draft you want us to do, also feel free to tweet us at the DC Crossover or at Cerrone16. Download the app, The Contender. That's Contender with a K. And for the podcast, feel free to subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Mike, 100 episodes in the books. Here's to 100 more. Let's go do 100 more right now.
Here's to 100 more. It's been great, buddy. So obviously, I'll talk to you in about an hour.
Yeah, we'll put the graphic up on the Twitter. You can vote. We'll extend it through the rest of the week, so we'll give you guys plenty of chances to vote for which team you prefer for the fictional draft, athlete draft. And besides that, people, we will see you next week for a regular show. That is Mike Cerrone. I'm Ben Simpson. You've been listening to another episode of the DC Crossover. 100 in the books.